in our episode on Master Ninja 1, in our episode on Master Ninja 2, in our episode on... what was the other one that we did?
Maroon Space Travelers.
In our episode on Space Travelers. In our episode on...
Pod People.
In our episode on Pod People. Pretty sure it's Master Ninja 1, but anyway. This time we watched Season 3, Episode 1, Cave Dwellers.
I've just developed a great new character for my upcoming SNL audition. What do you think of this? Attor Johnson. Huh? It'll go like this. It'd be like, Thong, fish is ready.
It's Thong.
Well, he's many things to many people. A man grows. A dong grows.
All right, well, but first, Happy Turkey Day, everybody.
Yes, although not for us in Canada, because we celebrated that last month.
Yeah, but we can still celebrate American Turkey Day. I am technically a secret American still, and I still celebrate American Turkey Day, not by eating turkey, but by, eating a lot and checking my privilege and maybe watching some classic MST3K.
And, personally, I am for eating as many turkeys as possible. For I grew up in Newfoundland where every Sunday there was a full turkey dinner every week. It was just normal. So Turkey Day was never special, nor was Christmas. It was just Sunday dinner. You would sometimes have it on not a Sunday.
They've not announced all the films that they're doing on Turkey Day. Who knows if they're going to do Cave Dwellers or not?
I think the chances are good. Call me crazy.
All right. We'll see. But they have said that they're going to announce what the season 13 films are going to be, the ones that they haven't announced yet anyways, during the marathon. So that is pretty exciting.
Yeah. What if it turns out to be the rest of the Gamera catalog?
Yeah, and the rest of the Attor catalog.
Well, more on that in a bit. For there are many, many interesting twists and turns that the wandering adventurer Attor gets into.
Well, I guess I can't wait to find out. I certainly can't wait to find out what the movies are going to be so I can start getting excited, doing homework. I don't know. What else? The Mads dropped a bomb, dropped a deuce right while we were recording last time.
That's right. They dropped the biggest possible bomb you could, which is that they will be riffing Manos again. I mean, the Mads have never riffed Manos, but they were sort of involved with the original riffing.
They certainly were. And they have said that they have not watched the episode or the movie since riffing it way back in season 4. I don't know whether they're planning on doing the traditional thing of watching the movie a bunch of times to write up their riffs, or if they're going to do like a live response improvised thing, sort of like what Mary Jo has done over on her Twitch channel now. I don't know which is the plan. I'm a little confused. I'm curious to see. I didn't think I'd be watching Manos again so soon after doing our big 100th episode.
Right? You'd think that was the definitive word on all things Manos. You think they'd stop.
No, we've inspired them to revisit the classic. Well, I'm excited to see them tackle that again. It should be lots of fun. It's a great movie, yada, yada, yada. I think we've already said more than enough about that movie.
I do think that there are some It's Just a Show superfans who are demanding the Snyder cut of that episode.
Well, but since the Mads aren't going to do that for a few more weeks, we might as well kill the time by talking about this season 3 episode, Cave Dwellers.
Ooh, well, we're fans who will be hang gliding into this. We will be fan gliding into this lovely little episode and movie. This time we watch Season 3, Episode 1, Cave Dwellers. Ah, yes. Come, gather round, children, as I tell a tale of Attor, destined to become a mighty king. But it's not today, for Ator is a roving warrior, but he's had a previous adventure, and frankly, it sounds pretty cool. He fought a giant spider, or a very reasonable facsimile thereof, and he may or may not have fought his living shadow, like Link did with the final boss of Zelda 2. Great stuff. Look forward to it in Ator the Fighting Eagle. But this is not Ator the Fighting Eagle. This is Cave Dwellers, but it's not really Cave Dwellers, but it's Cave Dwellers. We'll get into that. This movie, oh boy, this movie. The great Acronas is he's a guy who's built something incredible. It's almost like a nuclear bomb. And in fact, if you were to see footage of it in this movie, it may look suspiciously like test footage of a nuclear weapon. But this angers the great Zor, who has a Sherwig and a Fu Manchu mustache. Well, he's a white guy. And he comes after old Acronas, and he wants the incredible weapon, the geometric nucleus that has been created. Now, you may think, well, the movie's over. The bad guy's going to win. Who could possibly save the day? Who hero is up for the challenge? No less than Ator riding high from Ator the Fighting Eagle. And he teams up. He's got a wonderful sidekick named Thong, and Thong tells him about the fish, or maybe he tells Thong about the fish. It's a great scene all the same. They encounter some actual cave dwellers at one point while trying to rescue Acronas and the geometric nucleus. At one point, they get thrown into a pit of snakes. They are rubber snakes. And Ator, because he is the hero strong and true, he defeats the evil Zor. And then we get lovely, lovely final narration ending with a mushroom cloud, and that's the end. Well, wait, it's not the end, because Ator rides off in the sunset, and there's more narration. He says no a lot. There's not as much fighting as you think there would be, but my oh my, rest assured, kids of all ages will be entertained. Cave Dwellers, see it with someone you love, or see it with someone you hate, because they'll become your friend because they love it so much, and that's a good time in and of itself. The end.
Meanwhile, on the Satellite of Love, Joel and the bots are all wearing smoking jackets and coming up with new names for themselves. Magic Voice chimes in that she'd like to be called Magic Voice. Joel wants to be known as Chuck Woolery, which, as we'll explain, hasn't aged that well. In Deep 13, the Mads are recreating the Mike Douglas show, but Frank's a little too into it. Joel's invention is the smoking jacket, which is to say, a jacket that produces its own smoke. The Mads invent robotic arm wrestling, and Joel and the bots have fun rooting for both sides. Segment 2 celebrates the Weird Film Ventures International opening credits sequence. Half the segment has the crew cavorting around while cheap synth music plays and joke credits are displayed on the bottom half of the screen. It's kind of a weird sketch for the show, but I like it. At the halfway mark, the bots want to know why everything in these movies has a really fanciful name, and they practice giving convoluted names to, like, paperclips and stuff. And in segment 4, the bots want to know all about the weird sound effects in this movie, which leads to a lecture from Joel on Foley, the art of creating sound effects for movies. Huh. Are Adam and I going to talk more about Foley? Yeah, probably. After the movie, which Joel and the bots declare to be the worst they've ever seen, really? They dissect some frames of the movie for signs of tire tracks, modern cities in the background, and prehistoric people wearing Ray-Bans. The Mads shrug this off.
What do you want from us? We're evil! Evil!
The end. Cave Dwellers. Classic episode.
Indeed. And I would say a classic for a reason. The sketches are super fun. I totally love even though it's the thinnest of premises. I love the opening credits recreation, and they are just cavorting to that synth noodling.
It's such a basic synth noodle. It's basically a more up-tempo version of the music that plays in the movie, in the Film Ventures International patched on opening credits, but it's still kind of haunting and memorable. As soon as it came on, I was singing along to it. I haven't watched the episode in a decade or so.
Yeah, the da 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 da.
Exactly. It's fantastic. I think the riffing is strong. I think the sketches are delightful. And I think they're barreling into season 3 full of confidence because, all right, season 1 was a little rough.
Yep.
Season 2, however, was pretty strong, and they got some good critical attention. And they just got a 72-episode order from Comedy Central, 3 seasons of guaranteed income for people who'd been living on the shoestring budget for quite a while now. So, they were, I think, very confident going into this. They knew they had a thing going. They were relaxed. They were sure of themselves, and it just shows in the quality of the riffing.
Yeah, this is MST3K firing off on all cylinders. They're cozy, they're comfy. There have been no major cast changes between seasons, and this is a great movie for the show in much the same way that Pod People was an ideal experience. I mean, just a few episodes later, where you could say, "Hey, I watched this show. How best to explain it? You seen E.T.? But have you seen Italian E.T.?
Right. Yeah, this is just Italian Conan or something.
Yes, of which there are plenty of those.
Yeah, that's true.
But this one is memorable for a lot of reasons. It's loads of fun, and though they try to say that this is the worst film they've ever seen, I mean, clearly that's not true.
See last episode for details.
Yeah. The hang gliding section is incredible and a delight. And I just love, it kills me. Like the final sketch where they're going over all the things they noticed about the film. I love Trace's delivery when you see the tire tracks being pointed out and just goes, as you can see, somebody's been four-wheeling.
I love that little bit, especially because those are mostly details that I hadn't noticed during the movie.
Me neither.
They didn't shout them out while they were happening. So it was really nice to have that. But as I was watching it this time, I thought, oh no, is this getting a little cinema sins?
Oh, no. I think there's a big difference between Ator says he is a blade master, but I think you'll find the kind of sword that he's had is not commonly referred to as a blade. Like, it's not that. It's like actual painful errors that they should and very easily could have fixed, i.e. there's an extra with Ray-Bans.
Yeah. No, it's true. I don't know. But none of those are the reasons why this movie was a bit painful.
No, and yet that's the thing I find odd. Did you find this movie painful?
Well, no, because the bots and Joel were talking through it. I didn't have to sit through Acronis's 9-minute pauses. When people, including Mike and the bots, talked about the amount of pauses in The Touch of Satan, it's nothing compared with Cave Dwellers.
No. But that becomes this weird arch theatrical style that I came to love, because part of what I get out of this show is just seeing people not know how to make a movie. And I was like, well, what are the little quirks that come out when people don't know what they're doing? And that's one of them. It's clearly these are pauses for dramatic effect, but they're just off. They're just completely off.
Well, it's not even that. There are pauses for dramatic effect, but then the sense of how long the normal pauses should be is so off by my standards that the dramatic pauses become just eternities.
Yeah. And I kind of love that there are borderline Pinterest moments in this Conan the Barbarian ripoff. Wonderful.
We've already called an episode Pinterest. We can't use that one again.
Pinterest 2 on the move.
What else? I also the plot makes no sense.
I also love that. This is like a dream. This is like a total dream. Not helped by the fact that I had no connection to Ator at all. My family did not rent the Blade Master or the Fighting Eagle, and that was not a VHS we had growing up, nor did it air on cable. So Cave Dwellers is one of the first episodes of MST3K I watch. I'm 12 years old. the movie starts, but then the movie starts again, not unlike Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, where it's like, yes, the classic adventures of Ator, the spider puppet, and the lady who sees her face in a mirror, and all this stuff. And you're like, wait, what is this? Is this going to happen? It's confusing. And then they just kind of meander around from set piece to set piece, and then Ator takes that hang glider out. Yeah. And you're just like, yep, this movie knows that it does not make sense. And more power to it. It is rumored, though I looked around and I could not confirm, but it is rumored that this thing had about 2 weeks of production time. It was really down to the wire in terms of whether or not they could still fulfill Miles O'Keeffe's contract and get this all done. And so there was not a script. They really did improvise it like it was an episode of Curb, and that really makes me wish, it's like, see, if it was an episode of Curb, then Super Dave Bob Einstein would be in it. And boy, that's something I'd love to see. It's like, Thong, fish is ready.
It's Thong.
All right.
So
why does Dong keep protruding out of my mouth, Chris?
It's Thong. So I have a lot to say about that. I will say one of the reasons why this film is so confusing, or was so confusing when I first saw it, was that it's called Cave Dwellers. I mean, it isn't called Cave Dwellers. It's called Ator the Invincible or the Blade Master, but it was called Cave Dwellers on MST3K, which is the only context I knew it from. So I didn't realize that it was a sequel and that we were seeing flashbacks to the previous movie at the beginning. And also, why was it called Cave Dwellers? Like, they do run into some cave people halfway through for no reason.
And they do dwell there.
They do dwell there, those cave people, those dwellers in the cave. But they're not important at all to the plot. Why is the movie named after them?
Not since Naked Lunch.
Indeed.
It's such a misleading title.
But the other thing that I wanted to say about this, and about the hand gliding in particular, is that I saw this movie on its premiere.
Oh.
I saw this movie June 1st, 1991. I was watching it in my parents' bedroom because that was where the other cable box was. I had enjoyed MST3K up to that point. When it first launched nationwide, I didn't really get it, and I started to get more into it over season 2, but, I hadn't sort of committed to it, but I had grown to like it well enough that I was willing to watch the premiere of season 3 that, they put up so many ads for, I think. And so I'm watching this and I'm enjoying it. And there's a lot of great moments in it. There's the moment when Tom says,
the reason this scene is so good is because we care about the characters.
Which goes to your point that, like, who are these people to us? Like, nothing has been done to endear any of these characters to us. And that just resonated so much in my mind as a kid that I was just like, yes, that's such an incisive bit of film criticism if you've never thought about films that way before. Then there was the lecture on Foley, which was another thing that I knew a little bit about, but like seeing it all explained like that was fantastic. And then the hand glider came out.
Whoa. And what a magical moment that is.
Let me explain. The hand glider comes out, and then after a bit of montage of hand gliding, we cut to commercial. And then we come back, and there's something else happening, and then a little more hand gliding, and he lands. I was laughing so hard from the hand gliding that I laughed through the entire 2 minutes and 2 of the commercial break. I was literally rolling on the floor beside my parents' bed for 5 minutes straight, basically. It was the funniest thing I had ever seen. And that was when I decided I like this show. And so a few months later, when the first Turkey Day happened, I taped as much as I could of it. I taped, 12 episodes of the 16 or whatever it was that day. Mm-hmm. And I watched those episodes again and again and again. And that really cemented my fandom.
Yeah. I to talk about the hang glider scene, I had a similar moment, but fortunately, while I am sad that I did not get to see this live when it happened. I can't imagine. This is the Cowtown Puppet Show equivalency of when JR got shot. Everybody remembers where they were when Ator took out a hang glider that he clearly bought from a store. Amazing. But But I remember watching this. I was watching it with a few friends, and I was getting them into MST3K. And this was one I hadn't seen, but I was like, "Oh, it's Joel. I figured it'll be real good," and I was not disappointed. And then that hang glider scene happens. I pause the tape. I am laughing, but I am running up to the TV and pointing to make sure that everyone knows what is happening right now, and I am not having an episode because that's nuts. Like, that is, there are creative choices and there are creative choices. Our hero, who is a wandering warrior barbarian type, just gets a hang glider from a store off screen and flies into action. That's incredible.
But even like if you buy the idea in the movie that he like constructs it, it would have taken so. I mean, they go into this in the riffing, but like it would have taken so long. Or what, did he just have it hanging out near his old teacher's castle type thing? What? None of these. There is no explanation for the hand glider that is acceptable, even if we accept the idea that somehow they have invented hand gliding at this point in their history.
It would have made more sense if Ator turned to
Thong.
And it's funny, that's not sticking. But if Ator turned to his faithful companion and said, "I know now what we must do. We must teleport," and they just kind of Star Trek beamed into the next scene, that would have made more sense.
But actually, like, the whole point of the movie, I guess, is that there is science and learning that these other barbarians don't appreciate, but that Ator is different from Conan, I guess. I don't really know Conan that well. In that Ator is interested in science and like is not just strong, but is also wise in the ways of healing and in science.
Yeah, Ator is the thinking man's barbarian.
Exactly, which is an interesting note. But also the point of this movie is that nuclear war is bad.
Finally, somebody said it.
That prehistoric barbarian types had discovered nuclear reactors, but realized that they were too dangerous to get if they got in the wrong hands. That's what the movie is all about, is protecting nuclear weapons from getting into the Russians' hands or something. This movie is dumb.
But that's what I love about it. That's really what I love about this movie.
Oh, the big choices the movie makes are its best moments.
100%.
I've just received a note. The following statement is legally mandated before we begin the next segment. How much Keeffe is in this movie?
Miles O'Keeffe.
I mean, I still love the joke, but everybody loves it, and it's possibly been played to death, but it's still a lot of fun. It's still probably one of the most delightful name jokes that they ever did.
Yeah. And with good reason. I mean, what's a better name than Miles O'Keeffe? It sounds like this guy should have been, if not an Arnold Schwarzenegger, then at the very least a Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Is Miles O'Keeffe his real name?
Miles O'Keeffe is indeed his real name. He was born Frank Miles O'Keeffe.
All right. Frank O'Keeffe is not as funny an answer to that, but
Miles is way better. Like, how much Keeffe is in this movie? Frank O'Keeffe is not so good.
That's not so good. Is he an interesting person?
Well, he's kind of he's a bit reclusive.
Oh?
He's a bit reclusive these days. Yeah. So Miles O'Keeffe, I guess to go through it all, Miles O'Keeffe gets his start, as you can tell from his physique. He was a sports feller. He was a star football athlete and played halfback on his freshman football team back in the 70s. And he even got to university in Mississippi via a football scholarship. But after floating around doing different things, including being a prison counselor, much like Rondo Hatton, that acting bug, nothing. Chris, there's no cure for the bite of the acting bug. You're very lucky that you've never been bit.
Yeah, I did some acting early on in Christmas plays and so forth at school, and it was fine. It didn't really infect me with the fever for acting. Anyway, Miles O'Keeffe.
So Miles O'Keeffe gets his big break in the 1980s iteration of Tarzan called Tarzan the Ape Man, which stars Bo Derek.
Right. Okay. That sounds right. That's who I remember being in that movie. Is there a Miles O'Keefe in it as well?
Yeah. Miles O'Keefe is Tarzan.
Well, then what's Bo Derek playing?
Bo Derek is Jane, of course.
Oh, right. That one's the one from Jane's point of view.
Yeah. Because you know what the interesting part about Tarzan is? An ordinary woman. John Philip Law, who will be familiar to Misties from Danger Diabolik and Space Mutiny, is also in the movie.
And Skidoo.
Yeah, of course, Skidoo. I mean, that just goes without saying. We're not playing the hits here. There was a weird deal with this movie because you're on the Wikipedia page right now, you say. I've just checked it myself, and lo and behold, the film's poster is there. Chris, what's on the poster for the movie called Tarzan the Ape Man?
Bo Derek swinging around on a vine.
Is Tarzan anywhere to be seen?
Well, no, but I think because, Bo Derek is looking at us, we are playing Tarzan.
So we're Tarzan. Oh, I see. But isn't it a touch odd that Tarzan the Ape Man is not seen on his own poster?
I mean, it's the early 80s. They've gone for the pretty woman instead, who's wearing next to nothing. This all tracks.
The reason that Miles is not on the poster is because of some weird contractual clause. He was not allowed to participate in the publicity campaign at all. So he's not on the poster, he didn't do any press, and he's basically an anonymous figure in his own movie.
Right. Why was that?
This was some cockamamie scheme to either drum up interest in the new Tarzan, maybe, or more likely, my theory, to not dissuade or take away any attention from Bo, who, despite not being the title character even, is undoubtedly the star of the picture.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, again, that makes sense, I suppose.
Miles reflected on this in an interview by saying, "I was an idiot to have signed that agreement. Hell, even CJ, his orangutan co-star, got to go on the publicity tour."
The Wikipedia article suggests that it was not a well-received film.
No, he did not eclipse Johnny Weissmuller in terms of the famous Tarzans.
That seems promising. Did that lead to even better and brighter films?
It did. Because in addition to making a name for himself as Ator, he also had a role in a movie called Campus Man with Morgan Fairchild. It's a comedy, and he plays, and I quote, a brooding loan shark. And apparently, not only did he get good reviews for this, though I could not find any, but it's his favorite part.
More so than Ator, huh?
More so than Ator. And in fact, I think he got an even better role in this. He's in the very fun horror comedy Waxwork, starring Zach Galligan of Gremlins and Gremlins 2: The New Batch fame.
Okay.
And in Waxwork, well, David Warner, who always plays villains, almost always, who Misties will recognize from Quest for the Delta Knights, or Quest of the Delta Knights, whichever it is, has a wax museum of all the most terrifying people in fiction and reality. And of course, the wax figures come to life. Miles O'Keefe is Dracula.
Oh, had he lost his buffness by then?
No, he's a really buff Dracula.
Huh. That is playing against type, but okay.
And it's fun. It's great to see him. He's not in the movie very much, but he makes a strong impression.
Oh. I assume in these other movies, including Waxwork, which I assume you've seen.
I have indeed.
We get to hear his actual voice.
Yes, because, although wait, he might be dubbed in Waxwork. He might be dubbed in Waxwork. Because he's Dracula. Dracula can't have an American accent.
He's not supposed to have like a good foreign accent.
No, he's supposed to. Well, first of all, as we all know from watching the show Garfield and Friends, Dracula says bleh. He's going to say bleh at some point. And I don't think Miles O'Keeffe has it in.
Well, I'm just curious what his actual voice sounded like, since we don't get to hear it in this movie.
Well, he's got kind of a twang. I saw on YouTube, there was a guy, he just posted videos of him getting autographs signed at a convention. And sure enough, he gets one from Miles O'Keeffe. And Miles O'Keeffe has kind of like a borderline Southern twang.
Well, he's from Tennessee, so that makes sense.
Yeah. So he has a light Southern twang.
And Dracula didn't have that.
No, Dracula doesn't sound like Randy Travis, which would be a weird choice.
I mean, picking Miles in the first place is a weird choice, but I don't know, maybe. I mean, there's no reason why he can't do a basic non-Tennessean accent.
I don't see why not.
I'll give him that much credit.
But despite this, he does not get follow-up roles as playing the other Universal monsters, nor does he become a famous Dracula, nor is he invited back for the hit film Waxwork 2 Lost in Time.
But he does get invited back to do more Ator movies.
That is correct. So, as folks at home already know, this is not the first Ator rodeo. This is the second, and the first would be done in the most recent season. So there's the Fighting Eagle, and then there's the Blade Master. This is the Blade Master.
Right.
And then there's two other Ator movies. But they're not true Ator movies, because Ator, to me, is a collaboration between star Miles O'Keeffe and creator Joe D'Amato. Now, this is where you get to pick your poison. Because if you pick 1987's The Iron Warrior, aka Ator 3, you have Miles O'Keeffe, but you don't have Joe D'Amato. So, the dream logic that you enjoyed from the previous two movies, no more. It's a little more straightforward and a lot more boring from what I understand. Now, you get to a little film called Quest for the Mighty Sword. That's the last of the Ator movies. Joe D'Amato's back. He's brought a lot of props from other movies and thrown them into the movie all willy-nilly. But you don't get Miles O'Keeffe. Instead, you get a fella named Eric Allen Kramer as Ator, who will be known to folks because he played the Marvel Comics character Thor in The Incredible Hulk Returns. He played Dr. Destruction in an episode of your favorite show, Dr. Doctor. And most intriguingly, he played Alan Hale Jr. in 2001's Surviving Gilligan's Island, the incredibly true story of the longest 3-hour tour in history.
What?
Yes.
We're getting too deep into the weeds right now. This is several steps away from the biography of Miles O'Keeffe, even for this show.
It's a nice footnote.
Okay. There was a biography of the Gilligan's crew, and the person who is not Miles O'Keeffe, who played Ator in the fourth film, which Joe D'Amato did direct,
Yes.
plays Misty favorite, Alan Hale Jr.
See? It all connects. Otherwise, I wouldn't have brought it up.
Oh, God. Okay. Okay.
So Miles's career goes all over the place. He makes some low-budget pot boilers, one of which is called Liberty and Bash with Lou Ferrigno. And though they're released theatrically abroad, they're straight-to-video non-hits in North America. And he's pretty embarrassed by all of this. He tells interviewers that he's like dying to work with Michael Mann and George Miller of Mad Max fame. And it's not happening. Apparently, his reputation for the movies he's made, that's a big problem for getting his foot in the door. But he still occasionally acts from time to time. And his last movie wasn't too long ago. It was about 15 years ago. And it was called Claude, Legend of the Sasquatch.
Sure.
So that sounds promising. And
Claude as in I have been clawed by this Sasquatch, not the name Claude.
Yeah, not CLOD.
Okay. I was like, Claude, the very cool Sasquatch.
Sasquatch. Hi, I'm Claude Sasquatch. That sounds like the name for the most polite punk singer. Claude Sasquatch.
Hey, Adam.
Yes.
I didn't put this in the show 13, but you remember in this movie how there's a bad guy.
I do indeed.
And the bad guy's name is David Kane Houghton, although he would later change his name for acting purposes to David Brandon.
Okay.
And do you know this guy at all? Did he look familiar?
No. In fact, they keep comparing him to beloved actor John Saxon, but there's no resemblance.
Well, that may be true. But also, he was in a film in 1989 called Casablanca Express.
What?
With, you guessed it, Donald Pleasance.
Hey-o! That's my bit.
I know. I was very pleased to see this and realized you hadn't noticed it.
It took 105 episodes, but you finally did it. You maniac.
David Brandon, David Kane Houghton. He is that evil John Saxon type guy in the opening credits in that host segment, which is delightful. But does he look like John Saxon?
Not a little bit. Chris, you know John Saxon. He's the bad guy in Mitchell. Well, one of the bad guys in Mitchell.
There's a lot of bad guys in Mitchell. Yes,
no one's a good guy in Mitchell, I realize.
That's also true. I only knew of John Saxon from this bit until they did Mitchell.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, yeah, they look a little bit similar. I don't know. But if I had more experience with John Saxon, maybe I would disagree. Who is John Saxon when he's not in Mitchell?
Well, let's run through a bit of these actors who get referenced in this sketch. Because Chris, I've compiled. I really should have spent this time writing the summary, but instead I compiled information about all of these actors, not just their credits, but what type of actor they are. How they would be used.
Okay, so we start off with Crow as Ator. Fine.
Yep.
Then we've got Joel Robinson as that mean John Saxon type guy. So you can finally tell me, what's a John Saxon type guy?
John Saxon type, law enforcement and hired killers and hitmen. He is professional. He's got kind of a sneer to him. So he's usually playing, at the very least, untrustworthy characters, but usually villains.
Excellent. Okay, we've got Tom Servo as the really dull old guy. This is referring to our old man Acronas, played by Charles Borromel.
Charles Borromel. Huh?
What?
Bore, because he's boring.
Oh, I see.
There's Borromel.
He is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Got anything on him?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, nothing interesting. He does look like an elderly Robin Williams, though. They're right about that.
He was in Lady Hawk.
Haven't seen it. Haven't seen it.
All right.
Beloved by some.
Yes. Yeah, we've got Winona Ryder as Roxy Carmichael. Welcome home, Roxy Carmichael.
Well, that's not a particularly well-loved film. It's notable only for being directed by Jim Abrams, the one vowel in Zaz.
Oh, yeah. The airplane people.
Zucker, Abrams, Zucker.
Yeah.
But, she doesn't need Roxy Carmichael. I mean, Winona Ryder, Heathers for life. Heathers is a lifelong pass, but she does good work from time to time. I sometimes find her good. I sometimes find her miscast. She is an actor with talent who is sometimes misused. I don't much like the show Stranger Things, but she is one of the best parts of Stranger Things.
We've also got Andrew McCarthy as himself. This is not Charlie McCarthy's brother.
No. He has, I sort of own one thing that he's in because he's in the Tales from the Crypt episode Loved to Death. But he is perhaps best known for the Weekend at Bernie's flicks and, of course, Mannequin with the great Kim Cattrall. His type, he is a preppy everyman. So he's a decent guy, but he's got a lot of privilege, so your mileage will vary on his likability.
All right. Then we've got Kim Cattrall as the Mannequin. I feel like we'll cover her in a future episode.
I think that's safe to say, but I will give her type. Unclassifiable. Because Kim Cattrall is a massively talented actor with a wide range and is extremely underrated.
All right.
Yeah, extremely good.
Then the credits let us know that it may star one of the following: Brian Dennehy.
Yes, Brian Dennehy, you'll recognize from Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet, the Cocoon movies.
Haven't seen it.
He is the villain in First Blood, the first Rambo movie.
Haven't seen it.
He is, of course, in FX and FX2, The Deadly Art of Illusion.
No, haven't seen it.
And his type is surly cop.
Okay. It may also star M. Emmett Walsh, who I totally don't recognize.
Oh, what a delight M. Emmett Walsh is. His oily voice is so wonderful. He was in the first two Coen brother movies, Blood Simple and Raising Arizona. So drama and comedy, he can do both. He's been in a ton of interesting things, including Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. Why is everybody in this movie? He also stars in the greatest movie of all time, Critters. Thank you. He is often a crusty old fusspot. That's his type.
He's also in Blade Runner, which I have seen. And it may also star Charles Durning, another name that I vaguely recognize.
Now, this is why we have the similarities, because we've got a crusty old fusspot, a surly cop. Charles Durning, he's an oily fusspot. You'll recognize him from such films as Tootsie, The Muppet Movie, The Coen Brothers' Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? But best of all, the Dolly Parton vehicle, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. There'll be a link in our show notes to a musical number in which Charles Durning is sidestepping, because it's great.
Then we've got music by Danny Elfman again.
What? How can this be? Well, to explain this, Chris, we're going to have to leave Credit Corner.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to turn you down on that loan.
Oh, no. Oh, no. But I got all my money from United Furniture Warehouse, Danta, and I've saved big. I've paid all my payments. But I'll have to take you, abscond you, secrete you to another little corner known only as the Scorner. An unconventional scorner, but it's about time we talked about Danny Elfman on this show.
He didn't do the music for this film.
No, not only did he not do the music for this film, but the music sounds nothing like Danny Elfman music.
No, he also didn't do the music that isn't in this film, but is in this film anyways. The Film Ventures International music that they're making fun of in this bit.
No. This is a joke specifically about how prolific Danny Elfman had become at this time. This episode had come out in 1991. The previous year, Danny Elfman scored Nightbreed, Dick Tracy, Edward Scissorhands, and the best movie of all time, Darkman, all at once.
I'll put it this way. He was so prolific that I got that joke in 1991.
Nice.
Although I may have known him mostly for doing the Simpsons theme song.
Yes, because, I mean, that's one of the great things about Danny Elfman is that in his heyday, what a great composer. What a great composer he was. He's not dead, just dead inside. For he hasn't made a compelling score since Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 in 2004, but perhaps he's earned the right to coast. After all, Tim Burton, his lifelong collaborator, hasn't made a good movie since Ed Wood, the one movie of his not scored by Danny Elfman.
I feel like Danny Elfman may have prematurely run out of musical ideas because he insisted on using all the notes all the time.
That was kind of his thing. And you can hear that. You can hear that in The Simpsons. He did the theme to Sledgehammer. He did the theme to The Flash, not the current series, but the 90s series. And most importantly, his greatest work, what he'll be remembered for, I think, the theme to Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, he did that?
Yes, it's very Elfman-y.
It is, now that you say it, but I didn't know that.
Sad to say, now his scores are very generic. He scored the revised theatrical version of the film Justice League, and a lot of people got excited because he was scoring a superhero movie. And not only that, he was going to dust off his Batman theme for the first time since Batman Returns way back in the early 90s. And the Batman theme is there briefly, but that score stinks, unfortunately.
But I mean, that's sort of what superhero movies seem to want these days, is just bland soundtracks.
Indeed, and Elfman has been very vocal about the plague that is temp tracking.
If you were to recommend one Danny Elfman soundtrack for somebody to dip their toes into his works, which would it be?
Oh, ho, ho, ho. Oh, ho, ho, ho. That's tough. All right. If you're looking for the most iconic Danny Elfman score, that's probably the Michael Keaton Batman. That's most iconic. The most Danny Elfman-y score, though, to me, is the Bill Murray comedy Scrooged, which has everything you want a Danny Elfman score to do. It's dark, it's melodramatic, it's sad, and it's full of children's choir. So you know. But the best score, honestly, is his first score. It's Pee-wee's Big Adventure because he throws everything at it. It's as if he honestly seems to think, judging by what happens in that score, that he'll never get another opportunity to score a movie. So he goes for broke.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That sounds like it would be a shining moment, and just the two aesthetics are so simpatico.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, everybody, it's time for the Shallow 13.
It's time for the Shallow 13. 13 small but mighty factoids about today's experiment, cave dwellers. Go, Chris, go!
So yeah, the opening segment has Joel and the Bots picking out new names. Crow wants to be known as the Alan Parsons Project, which he borrows from the 70s and 80s band. They were behind the hit Eye in the Sky, which absolutely baffled me as a child, as well as the instrumental Sirius, which has been borrowed by quite a lot of people. Link in the show notes if you want to hear it and see if it sounds familiar to you.
Magic Voice wants to be known as Magic Voice. But if that's not available, she also suggests Vivian Banks. We discussed Vivian Banks way back in episode 1 of this podcast, but as a reminder, she's the aunt of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When this episode aired, the show had not yet switched the actor playing Aunt Viv.
Joel chooses Chuck Woolery to be his new name. Now, Woolery was the host of several game shows starting in the 70s. He was the original host of Wheel of Fortune before Pat Sajak took over, as well as the host of Love Connection, Scrabble, and Lingo. Nowadays, he hosts a right-wing podcast, and he was a COVID denialist on Twitter until his son contracted the disease, and then he deactivated his Twitter account.
Among Tom's picks is Sugar Magnolia, presumably after the well-known Grateful Dead song. Beyond that, I got nothing.
We discussed why Film Ventures International gave these movies new names and new title sequences in our episode on Master Ninja 1. So, what unrelated movie gives Cave Dwellers its new opening? Why, it's a 1963 Italian peplum film called Thor, il re della forza bruta, released in English as Thor the Mighty, though in the film they pronounce his name Thor. It was supposed to be Tarzan the Mighty, but the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate didn't take too kindly to that idea.
So, if you're curious, Tor, or maybe Thor, he's a real strong guy, played by professional wrestler Joe Robinson. He's also got a faithful companion named Ubaratuta, which isn't problematic at all. And Thor's got a friend named Searose, and Searose has a girlfriend named Ea, and Ea's tribe is under attack by the Kisos. And you know what? I just skimmed through the rest of the film, and there are no stop-motion monsters, so you can probably skip this one.
The art director for this film, which apparently had an art director, is Massimo Lentini. Lentini was also the art director from Escape from the Bronx, aka Escape 2000, which was riffed in Season 7, and which also apparently had an art director.
He was also the art director for Troll 2, which is not to be confused with Trolls 2, aka Trolls World Tour, the movie with those podcasters in it. No, 1990's horror comedy Troll 2 is the sequel to 1986's horror comedy Troll, although the fact that it was a sequel was only decided after the film was made. Troll 2, which was supposed to be called Goblins, was produced by the director of Cave Dwellers, Joe D'Amato.
During the opening segments, Dr. Forrester tells Frank that no, he can't sing The Man in My Little Girl's Life. Well, The Men in My Little Girl's Life was in fact a number 6 hit in 1966 for Mike Douglas. It's about a father talk-singing his reminiscences about his daughter's life as she grows up, but it's told entirely through her relationship with various boys. The music is treacly, the reverb is up to maximum, and the sexism is absolutely unthinking. It's one of the worst songs I've ever heard, and so I insist you check out the link in the show notes.
Now, despite the awful song, the Mike Douglas Show was possibly an interesting success, maybe? The talk show began in 1961, went national in 1965, and lasted until 1981. The show was broadcast live until one day, Zsa Zsa Gabor called Maury Amsterdam a son of a bitch for stepping on one of her jokes.
Mike Douglas would have different guest hosts each week and often let their eccentricities flourish. The most notorious of his guest hosts were probably John Lennon and Yoko Ono in 1972, but also include an early TV appearance by Barbra Streisand and some apparently energetic guest hosting by Sly Stone. And who did Mike Douglas and guest host Betty White welcome onto the show? Malcolm X, of course, just 2 days before his assassination.
In this episode, Dr. Forrester isn't wearing his trademark green glasses. As far as unpopular variants on beloved character looks, I'd rank it below Dave Foley's reddish wig seen in the 4th season of News Radio, but above such regrettable redesigns as the new look of Janine Melnitz after the initial 78 episodes of The Real Ghostbusters and Tom Servo's cylindrical head from season 2 of this very program.
And finally, as one of the few actual cave people in the movie eats a human heart, Tom riffs,
I want a Barney Clark bar.
What a riff. Okay, the Clark bar, first introduced in 1917, was the first American chocolate bar to become popular throughout the United States. And Barney Clark was the first recipient of a permanent artificial heart. Clark survived 112 days with his artificial heart device, though he found his quality of life during this time to be terrible and repeatedly asked his doctors to please let him die.
And on that note, that's time.
So, speaking of Dave Foley.
My favorite Foley.
Is it? Or do you like the sound effects more?
I do love sound effects, but to tell you about sound effects, Chris, I first must walk across this icy tundra. You hear that? Oh, now, Chris, I'm on the moon, and what do you know? It's Christmas, so there's icy tundra. Well, now before we continue this segment, I do have to reel in my fish. I've been fishing with a pal of mine, so I just have to walk across this icy tundra. The Foley bit, ladies and gentlemen, the Foley bit. Thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. I was making a salad and accidentally broke my arm trying to get the celery cut into smaller pieces. I assume I'm going to add a sound effect in somewhere around here because I forgot to buy celery before we recorded.
I know. Where's Michael Winslow when you need him?
So you went to a technical school to learn the behind-the-scenes stuff about TV and movie making magic?
Indeed.
Did you take, I assume, several classes on Foley?
I did do several sound design classes and several classes on sound editing. Those were amazing. I had a lot of fun. I already had a background in audio editing, doing some audio editing for this podcast, but also that's something I've done professionally as well. And I love editing of all kinds, but sound editing is really fun. You can get really playful with it. And we did have several big Foley projects. And as an experiment for one of these projects, and also because I put it off to the last minute, I decided to create all the sounds for a road trip through an extremely noisy area using only things I had lying around the house.
Nice. Was it through an Arctic tundra?
Well, if it was, I think it'd go a little something like this.
I'm there.
Yeah. Painting a picture with sound, not unlike Big Finish. But yes, so I remember of all the things I had to do, I think I created 11 original sound pieces and then created a collage for it. And so to create the sound of a car driving, what I did was I have a screwdriver and I have an oak desk, and I rolled the screwdriver, like the handle side, on the desk, and then I gradually slowed that down with editing software so that it sounded like a dull hum.
Oh.
And I was surprised at how effective that was. It's like, oh, this actually sounds pretty decent. I am just making this up as I go along. And there was a transmitter that the car passes. And for that to create different sounds of like the echoing, I just took several glasses of water, again, filled with different amounts of water. I thought that would make a difference. It might not have. And I just like lightly tapped each one with a fork and recorded the echoing sound. But I had several different kinds of echoing sound so that you get a sense of this is it when the car is close to it, this is it as the sound is passing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that sounds lots of fun.
Yeah, sound design and sound editing. It's the future, baby. The future is sound. We're going to abandon visual media. We're going back to radio. That's the future. Podcasts and radio.
All right. Well, I feel like we've said miles of things about Miles O'Keeffe, as well as all sorts of other stuff about cave dwellers. Adam, do you have a final factoid about this episode?
Oh, no, I do. Because, oh, no, it's Devo.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, oh, yes, because it's Devo. I mean, come on.
Yes. We've talked about Devo before.
We have, but not enough, Chris. Not enough.
All right.
And there is a choice riff when the name Lisa Foster comes up in this film. And Crow says something to the effect of, I'd shoot Donald Reagan to prove my love for Lisa Foster.
Donald Reagan, I think, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donald Reagan, the the Secretary of the Treasury, the former Chief of Staff under Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
No relation.
Yes. And of course, you know what this riff refers to.
Yes, it refers to the fact that John Hinckley Jr. attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan in, I believe, 1981 in order to impress Jodie Foster because that's what's going to work.
Yeah. That was John Hinckley Jr.'s, for lack of a better term, claim to fame.
Right.
He was the man who attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan. And he found unlikely collaborators for a musical project in the form of none other than the world's greatest band, Devo.
Okay. Is this a Charles Manson thing where, he tried to make it big in the music world and then he went on an assassination type spree?
No, they incorporated some of his writings to Jodie Foster into a song called I Desire that is on, honestly, their best album called Oh No, It's Devo. And boy, that's one creepy song, even if you don't know that. As it features the haunting line, a smile I might bring you is more important than world peace. Yikes.
It's a real creepy song.
Yeah, and that's exactly why Devo were interested in it, because they seem to think, and I think they were right on the money, that, John Hinckley is kind of a part of, people that are bred in America and are obsession with celebrity and kind of like the weird deranged places that brains can go. But recently, John Hinckley Jr., who now has Twitter.
Yes, he's out of jail now.
Yep. And John Hinckley Jr. is a little upset because he tweeted, back in 1982, I co-wrote a song with Devo called I Desire. It is on their album Oh No, It's Devo. The album is still selling worldwide, especially in Japan and Europe. I haven't seen royalties in 35 years. What's the deal? Not one of Seinfeld's better bits.
Yeah. But one of Hinckley's better bits. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. One of his least harmful.
If you've been affected by the issues on this show, if you once collaborated with Devo under unfortunate circumstances, or if you'd like to ask us anything, get in touch with us. Our website is itsjustashow.com, and we're on Twitter at itisjustashow. We'd love to hear from you. This show is made possible by listeners like you. For as little as $1 an episode, you can help us research and record the show, and you can listen to all our superfan bonus bits. Find out more at itsjustashow.com/Patreon or patreon.com/itsjustashow. And if you want to follow up on anything that was mentioned today, you'll find links in our show notes at itsjustashow.com/episode/105. I grow weary of Ator and his adventures. I think we have said more than enough about Miles and Miles O'Keeffe. I'm ready to move on as we enter the December holiday type season. Adam, what are we going to do next?
Well, good for you. Lucky for you, we are in Canada. There are no miles O'Keefe. Unfortunately, there's kilometers O'Keefe. As next time, we will be talking about Ator, the Fighting Eagle, Season 12, Episode 6.
All right, but until then...
Friends don't let friends collaborate with John Hinckley Jr.
Now, what do you, the viewers at home, think? Take it away, Theme Squad.